Big D Entertainment, in association with Dipsy Doodle Productions, presents The Dave Holly Hour. Brought to you by TJS Ceramic Studio, Posh Boutique in the Bridges at 57th, The Sky & Tea, XL Chiropractic, Quality Nails, Jesse Moffitt Entertainment, and the Sioux Falls Arts Council. The Dave Holly Hour features Sioux Empire arts and entertainment conversations. A true lover of arts, entertainment, good food, and fun times, including an occasional Jack Daniels. Okay, so a few Jack Daniels. Here he is, Dave Holly.
It's milestone time. Welcome to episode number 200. I know, cute, cool in the gang. Oops, sorry, copyright. But it is definitely time to celebrate the arts. In fact, it's an extra celebration this week as the episode will give us well over an hour, maybe even over an hour and a half of arts and entertainment conversation. My first guest on the show that came out on 10/10/2019 was Byrne. He was also on episode number 100, and just as he is today on number 200, and he even told me before he left town to go back to England, said if we're both around for number 300, he'd love to. My 100th guest was comic Alisha Rayne. Today she's on the show, talks about how busy she is, not just performing stand-up, but also producing shows. Then Axel Steen returns to the show and turns the tables as she interviews me. But first, let's pop the cork on this bubbly little show. Time to grab your favorite beverage, lift it high, and toast it to being Thursday, a.k.a. Weekend Eve.
Hey, the weekend isn't around the corner, it's here!
So long, hump day and your frumpy way. We say hello to Thursdays with opening nights. The weekend is near and we can see the bright lights. Yes, Thursday, you're so hearty, we can't wait for Friday, so a day early, we start the party. Wherever you are, however you might be listening, whatever you might be drinking, and whatever you might be drinking it out of, all partly because, hey, it's a different time of day for everybody that listens to this. But I do want you to lift that mug or glass or what have you and celebrate it. And a Weekend Eve toast to someone very few of you that listen to this show would know. David Wortman of Mount Juliet, Tennessee. Sunday, he will celebrate another trip around the sun. He is my brother-in-law. He's a gospel singer with an amazing bass voice. He's a regular listener of this show, and he took me to Smokey and the Bandit when I was in the summer between 8th and 9th grade. And always will remember that. It's a great memory. But love you, brother, and looking forward to seeing you in just a couple of weeks. The Weekend Eve Toast brought to you by The Sky & Tea. The Sky provides all caps fun, and that is best to add with friends. Have fun playing darts, shooting pool, listening to great live music from local musicians, or maybe you want to be one of those great musicians or singers and have fun at karaoke. Need some extra room? If you're holding a company party or a big benefit, The Sky's back room fits that bill. No matter what's going on at The Sky, it's local and it's lively. Honorable mention. What did Dave do this past week that made him really happy? Well, it was SuperCon. Wow, what a great event for this city. Last weekend's convention attendance, 10,500. That's a 50% increase from last year. We had a booth this year, had a great time meeting many of you, and a great time hosting trivia and improv comedy on Saturday night. Now, if you've never been, primarily because you don't think it's your scene, trust me, it's well worth the price of admission just to see the cosplay characters, and you will be surprised. You will find something there that will trip your trigger if you go to next year's show. All right, so again, honorable mention to this past weekend's SuperCon convention. Later on, Axel Steen becomes the guest host while I play the guest. Before that, we talk stand-up with comic Alisha Rayne. Up next, Byrne. on the Dave Holly Hour.
Check out the new ceramic studio in Sioux Falls, conveniently located off Kiwanis Avenue on 5th Street. TJS Ceramics inside Oscar's Mini Storage. We have thousands of classic vintage ceramic mold items and several new items too. TJS Ceramics offers classes, special open studio nights, and completed ready-to-purchase items. Bisque studio time or painting parties are available. Visit TJS Ceramics Studio in person today or email tjsceramics@gmail.com for more details.
Comedy magician and hypnotist Jesse Moffat's right. He can't play the piano, but he can sure entertain crowds with his amazing magic and clever quips. His shows always make the participants the stars, especially when they've fallen asleep on stage. They've been hypnotized. Are you the party planner in your group? Then you owe it to your group to make the event magical, even if it puts you to sleep. Here's how.
For booking information, go to Jesse Moffat Entertainment on Facebook. That's JESSEMOFFITT. Or call 605-929-0964.
Support the Dave Holly Hour in a very easy way. Buy Dave a cup of coffee by clicking the cup at davehollyhour.com.
Welcome back, everyone. 200th episode of the Dave Holly Hour, and it started off on such a great note, too. My first guest that I ever had was Robin Byrne. At that time, executive director of the Sioux Empire Community Theater, SECT. Then it became TPP as the premier playhouse. He played a major role in that and did such a great job of getting us a great community theater back. And, well, he's here for episode number 200. We happen to catch up with him before he flies back to jolly old England. Robin, how are you?
I'm very good. Very tired. Haven't had much sleep.
Yeah.
And when I leave here, I'm straight to the airport.
Exactly.
To jump on long haul flight. Three flights via Frankfurt of all places.
Really?
Back to Manchester. Yeah.
So you've got a long time ahead of you. What are you going to think about on that plane flight?
Oh, I've got a lot to think about. A lot of things business wise.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the reason I came back here was related to my business that I had before the Premier Playhouse, and that's gone exceptionally well. And not ready to talk about that yet because the contracts are not signed.
All right.
I'll be thinking about two particular theatrical writings that I've commenced. As I've been sitting in England over the last year, I found I have a little more time to start writing again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I hadn't done in a long time. And I'm actually enjoying doing it. I don't know if it's a good thing when you're laughing at your own comedy as you're typing it.
I think it is. It's one of those, well, first of all, they always say, write what you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, you start from there, and if you're laughing at your own stuff, somebody else is going to be doing that too. So,
That's right.
In fact, weren't you telling me when we had coffee the other day that in the household it was being accepted as well?
That's right. Yeah, my wife stuck her head round the door and said, "What are you laughing at?" And I said, "I know, maybe I shouldn't be laughing at my own stuff." And I gave it to her to read, and she's brutally honest. Heather is brutally honest. And she said, "This is really good." So I thought, that'll do for me. If Heather thinks it's really good, it's probably better than really good.
Well, see, that's your support right there. You have that in the bag to begin with then. Yeah. And so you've got two different things that you're writing on and working on.
Yeah,
correct?
one's a brand new idea that occurred to me while I'm here. And it kind of has a tie to the first play I ever directed for the Sioux Empire Community Theatre, which was The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. Mm-hmm. And I say it's got a tie to it. It's got a tie to it in the production sense, not in the era or Midwest sense or whatever. And I'd love... I'm really wanting to tell you, but I'm just thinking, is it too early to talk about this? And, whatever, but... what the heck? Let's go with it.
Let's do it.
I'm thinking of writing something called a night at the Oscars.
Oh.
And it would be a Ricky Gervais type compare. The actors would be in the audience and coming up on stage.
Okay.
And we would actually film the clips that they show on the screen, and put them on stage. And that's why I was saying it's a bit like The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, because when we did that, I think you came and saw that show, didn't you? We built 2 movie screens into the set and had 4 hidden cameras so we could do close-ups of the actors and kind of reflect the John Wayne black and white movie as well as the live theatre experience, you know? My ideas are kicking around on that. So that's something I'm going to probably be thinking about on the plane. And then later this week, once I've got back to work at the 2 theatres I'm working for in England under one name, because it's one company that has 2 theatres.
Okay.
I'll start just scratching the paper with some ideas and seeing if I can make myself laugh. If I can't, I'll give up on the idea and go back to the original one that I'm already working on, and it's almost complete. Yeah.
So tell us, in terms of what you do when you're back in England, you're involved, obviously, acting, directing, even in some capacity management of theaters as well.
Yeah.
So what's like a week in your life in England?
Wow. It's diverse theatrically, right? Yeah. In the sense that I don't know if a lot of people knew it before while I was living here, but I am a member, of Equity, the Actors Union. Right. So I carry the paid up card, which allows me to get professional jobs without displacing people who might get upset, etc. So I'm a freelance actor, though I've only done 1 play since I got back, and a freelance director, and I haven't done any of that since I got back. So part of my day is spent on the internet. I subscribe to various sites that advertise roles and auditions. Sometimes my week is a company that I'm registered with who need actors to role play for medical examinations. And I had to turn a job down to come here where I would have been a psychiatric patient. And the real life doctors would have been, examining me. And they were in turn being evaluated by their
peers,
teachers
or
and whatnot,
supervisors, etc.
Yeah, but I became an executive director and a consultant to Theatre Deli, which is short for Delicatessen. Its full name is Theatre Delicatessen, but the theatres are just known as Theatre Deli. And we have a major venue in central London about to get significantly more major. I'll tell you a little bit about that shortly. And we've got a venue in Sheffield, which is where I live now. So I spend most of my time at the Sheffield venue, though I've got to go down for a board meeting to London shortly after I get back to England. Theatre Deli does radical theatre. We don't do what the Orpheum does, right? We don't do what the Premier Playhouse does. Right now at the Premier Playhouse, I don't know when this goes out.
It's going to be on Thursday morning.
All right, I was going to say, go buy your tickets and see The Little Mermaid, right? But we don't do shows like that. They are shows with social commentary, or they are airing subjects that need airing, or tackling bigotry and racism and things like that. And when I get back, the first play that we'll be doing when I'm there is a play about breasts.
That's right.
It's got 3 ladies in it, and 2 of them are wearing costumes that look like individual breasts.
Okay.
With a nipple on the front of each costume. And they are the breasts of the third lady, and they are talking to her. And it's all about breast cancer awareness.
Right.
Yeah. And you can imagine if a lady's breasts did talk to her, there could be some very funny conversations. And I'm sure there will be, because as yet I haven't seen it, because we don't create that work ourselves. We kind of book that work through the organization, but we incubate artists who are working on projects, whether it be theatrical or musical or whatever, and we then encourage those artists to perform at our venues. So we're individually not creating the work ourselves. We're giving other people the
opportunity to
the opportunity, the space, the encouragement, and the support. If they need a private studio, somewhat like the one we're sitting in now, to create something musically and whatnot, we can provide them with that studio. And we do that by taking on urban space, disused factories, sports venues and things like that. So in the centre of London, there is a Marks and Spencer department store. And Marks and Spencers are a huge name in England, just about in every town, kind of like having a Macy's at every mall or whatever, Except that this Marks and Spencers, smack bang in the centre of London, is 7 stories high, probably around about 60 to 70,000 square feet. And we negotiate with the owners, who have very expensive properties sitting empty that is costing them a fortune for them to sit there empty. They're paying a lot of money in taxes and things like that. And we, as a non-profit, get it almost tax exempt, like 90%. So we can go in there and say to them, we'll make use of this property. You pay the other 10%. So you're getting a 90% reduction in your overheads, right? And we'll do business there, right? So we get our buildings for free, and the big organizations who own them, they save literally. In the case of Marks and Spencers, they'll be saving 7 figures a year in taxes that they don't have to pay on that building. Yeah.
Ooh. Incredible.
So
great little business model.
So I help and advise in all things business and all things artistic. They just offered me the job as a consultant, and I said, "What do you want me to do?" And they said, "Turn up, keep your eyes and your ears open, talk to everybody, and tell us how to do it better." Yeah.
Consultant work. I like that.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned the fact that, you were talking about a lot of the edgy comedy that you're going to be doing, or not comedy per se, but the edgy plays that you do.
Yeah.
Talk about social issues, talk about, breast cancer and so forth.
Yeah.
But let's talk about your daughter a little bit. Jade has done well with her show, Pricks.
God, I got a lump in my throat.
Yeah.
So proud of her.
No kidding.
Yeah, she's been a type 1 diabetic since she was 4 years old. She's always wanted to be an actress because Dad was a drama teacher, I think. So it was, it was in the blood. And she was at the Edinburgh Festival a few years ago wondering what to write a play. It inspired her to write something, but she didn't know what she wanted to write. And while she was thinking about it, she had a hypo. And when she came out of her hypo, she said, "That's what I've got to write about. I've got to write about my type 1 diabetes." And she wrote a one-woman show called Pricks. And Pricks was based on the finger pricks.
Yep.
And the real-life pricks that she has, that she runs into. And that show was a runaway success. She ended up doing 5 national tours. It was voted by the British Theatre Guide as the best one-person show in the UK. And she won awards for it. And then when COVID hit, she was wondering what to do because she had to cancel her halfway through her 5th tour. She had to cancel the shows. So she thought, we'll make a movie about pricks. And she wrote the movie, and which wasn't a one-woman movie. It wasn't an exact replica of what she'd
play.
been doing as the stage show. And on I've been here 3 weeks. I arrived on a Tuesday. That previous Sunday, we were at the Women X Film Awards, which is part of the British Independent Film Foundation, and she won Best Documentary, which is terrific. A British film, a British Independent Film Award. The funny thing about it was we didn't think we'd made a documentary because when we saw it nominated in that, I say we because Dad threw money at it, and became an executive producer, an executive director, and ended up in the credits. And I acted in it.
I was going to say, I thought you'd been in it too.
I did, but my part ended up on the cutting room floor.
Oh no!
And it wasn't. I'm assured it wasn't anything to do with the acting. It was the director chose to change the direction of the storyline and not cover the wedding. Yeah, it was only a small part. I got over it. But we were amazed when we saw it was in the documentary section, and it was nominated in 2 other areas. So we thought it's more likely to win in the other 2 areas, and it won the documentary section. And I said, "Wow, it's kind of like when The Martian won Best Comedy at the Oscars." And the funny thing about it was Toby, the director, wasn't there. So we messaged him and said, "We've won Best Documentary." And he said, "What?" He said, "Well, I'm very happy, but it's kind of like when The Martian won." And everybody burst out laughing and said, how come you both thought of the same thing? I said, "Well, what they say, great minds, etc., etc." So yeah, she's doing really well, and she's written a musical that is about to start touring as well, which is also based on type 1 diabetes, because she'd written a children's book called Daisy Donald about a 6-year-old type 1 diabetic superhero with an invisible cape. And they've made that into a musical for children. When I say for children, it's a small cast of adults. They take it to audiences of children. There'll be a lot of type 1 diabetic children in that audience who I think will get a lot of comfort from that show, knowing that they're not alone.
Exactly.
And Daisy Donald is their superhero, and they can put on their invisible cape every day, and they can go out and face the world.
Yeah, great stuff. Great stuff. No doubt about that. You've talked already about some of the plays that you're writing, some of the things that you can be doing. How about the future then? What else is out there for you? Both in England and. I know you'd like to come back and do a few things here.
I would. I'm working on. I'm working on a piece that is a tribute to a dear friend of mine, Amy Morrison.
Oh, we lost 2 biggies this year.
Yeah, get choked up again. When I joined Sioux Empire Community Theatre, it was me auditioning to be in Les Miserables in 2014. And at the first rehearsal, I met this lady with Annie Lennox hairstyle, and we got on pretty well. And that was Amy, of course. And then later on, before I became executive director, I directed Steel Magnolias. And I had 50 ladies show up for auditions for that show. And it was kind of overwhelming, but it was a luxury of choice for a great piece of theatre. And I ended up with the best cast ever, 6 terrific ladies. And Amy was playing Truvy, the hairdresser. And those 6 ladies stayed together after the show.
Messaged each other
every day. And they became real life Steel Magnolias right here in Sioux Falls. And it broke all their hearts when Amy passed. Me too. And I was sitting at home in my back garden, in my gazebo, thinking about, wouldn't it be great if I could write something for those 5 ladies along the same lines, the same characters or similar, right? I wrote it as the same characters, and I thought I might have to make some changes here because Robert Harling, the author of Steel Magnolias, might have some objections or whatever. So I'd written it originally as a sequel to Steel Magnolias, and I thought Robert Harling, the author of Steel Magnolias, might object to me stealing his characters. So this will probably be adapted to just 5 Southern ladies. But within 2 hours of having that thought and that idea, Terry Zerfus sent me a text message or whatever in England saying, you really need to come back and direct the 5 of us in something. Oh. Yeah. And I just thought,
those moments that happen like that are so strong.
There's a sign.
Yeah.
You know, somebody above.
Yeah.
Might be urging that. You know? And so I pulled something together. I was thinking maybe a 1-act play. And Terry had an idea about another play that's a full-length play that's based on similar characters. And I said, well, we're developing a choice, you know.
Right.
And it's great to have that. So Terry and I and Lisa Barlow-Cutter sat down and went through the script that I'd brought, and they enjoyed it, etc. And if I go ahead with that, it might need more work. It might be that we don't exactly have the full identical cast, but close to it or whatever. But I haven't really had much time while I'm here because of so many things that I've got going on to fully follow through, that in the end we've been messaging back and forth, Lisa and I, and I'm going to have a Zoom meeting when I get back to England. Yeah. So that's one thing, you know,
right,
going forward, and the rest of it, theatre-wise, will be me hopefully being successful at grabbing a few, theatrical roles. Yeah.
And then while you were here, of course, you know, you were having coffee with some bearded podcaster, and he says, well, what about this show? What about this show? And so forth. And so you've got other things planted in your mind. Is there more room in the mind yet, or is it pretty full right now of all these ideas, chock full?
My mind jumps around. I'm a little ADHD, I think, if I've got the letters in the right order there. Yes. I keep getting filled with ideas. I know I'm a little bit different in the sense that I have a lot of creativity going on in my head, but I'm also very down to earth in business things. So you tend to find that in theatre, nearly all theatres, I would say, in fact, of any size, I'm not talking community theatre, they have an artistic director and they have a separate executive director. And the artistic director deals with all things production,
right?
And the executive director usually is the slightly senior, because they have the upper hand when it comes to finance, and that is so important, right? To keep control of the finances. You know, you don't have money to spend on productions, and you end up without a theatre company if you don't manage the finances, and I think that's where my strengths were. I studied theatre. I taught drama in school, and then I went and worked for Xerox, and I ended up running operations for Xerox in the north of England, and I developed a very strong business background, and then I ran my own business helping other businesses. And I don't normally publicize it, but I ended up being nominated for a United Nations Positive Peace Award. For all of the positive outcomes that me and my program had delivered into non-profit organizations. Well, Rick Weiland knew that. So when he became president of the board and we were looking to get back on our feet, Rick approached me and said, would you consider being executive director? Because I directed shows, I'd acted in shows. He knew I was a theatre guy, but he also knew about my business background and and a lot of my expertise with the non-profit side of things. So it was a good fit. And, and that would be my advice to the Premier Playhouse, going forward is Oliver Mays. I like Oliver. I hired him to be the director of Cabaret, and while he was doing that, he and I talked about working together full time, and I got the board to agree for me to hire him as associate artistic director to me. And then about a month later, I resigned. And I resigned because I'd lost my son, my youngest boy, just over a year prior to that. And you don't get over things like that. And people at work, I think, thought I was okay. Because I was Robin Byrne, carrying on as usual. But, they don't see you crying in the shower in the mornings, things like that. And I went back to England for a visit, and it just affirmed to me that that's where I needed to be. I needed to be there for the rest of my family, and I needed my family to be there for me.
True.
And so I resigned one of the most enjoyable jobs I've ever had. It was, as they said, it was the best of times and it was the worst of times. I had two, tragedies during that period, and it's hard to live with that. But this is why I love the Premier Playhouse. It got me through those times. And what we did there, what we achieved there, was nothing short of remarkable.
True.
We improved the quality of everything so much, and we dramatically improved, the financial stuff. And that's where I was going with this. I think the productions are in safe hands with Oliver. I think, and this is me speaking to the board of directors now, going forward, you can't overspend on your production budgets, and you can't fail to bring in sponsors and donors. And, I think that needs a business head to do that. And that's a direct, splitting my old job into two makes a lot of sense.
Right.
I know it means two salaries, right? But that extra salary can be paid out of the donations that you bring in. I mean, in 3 years, we brought in over $500,000 in donations, and $400,000 in addition to that from government grants. We did very well out of COVID, you know, and when you do that, and then you control those budgets, because if you overspend your budgets and you're not raising funding, you get stuck in a rut. You know, that the only difference between a rut and a grave is the depth. Eventually, those funds dwindle, right? Yeah. I'm not saying they're in financial difficulty. I know they're not. I left them very sound indeed. Yeah. But don't let it slide.
Right.
If you want to get even further and even better, then you've got to raise even more money. You know, and you know, don't fall into the trap of what other community theatres do, and what, to be honest, Sue Empire Community Theatre did, is get so absorbed in the content and the productions and what's going on that you lose sight of the financial aspect. And you know, we almost closed the doors there, you know. And fortunately, you know, I'm not. The credit sits with various people. Rick Weiland did an amazing job. He got the city to take the debt and give it to us as an interest-free loan. He got people to forgive debt. He got other people to defer those debts, right? Me and Jesse Jensen, my good pal Jesse.
Oh, what a dandy.
You know, I knew from day one I wanted to rebrand to the Premier. Well, I didn't know what I wanted to rebrand it to. I just knew I wanted to rebrand it. And Jesse and I used to sit and talk about it, and we'd go down to Stogie's and have a cigar, and I'd drink my Diet Coke. And I'm sure people think I had a drink problem down there because I was always going to Stogie's for a cigar, but I hardly ever drink.
Right.
You know, I've never particularly liked that. I'd sit and drink my Diet Coke and talk to Jesse. And it was Jesse who said, what about something that has the word Playhouse in it? To pay homage to what's gone before. And I said, yeah, that's a great idea. You know, and I was talking to Premier Bank, and I said, you know, trying to get funding out of them. And I said, maybe the Premier Playhouse rolls off the tongue nicely and might help us get some funding, you know.
Right.
And we did. We got $100,000 from. But I think, and there's an example of what I mean from a business perspective. I asked them for $500,000. You know, you gotta be able to look them in the eye.
True.
And I asked them for $500,000. I got 100,000. I asked Denny Sanford for $500,000, and I got 100,000 off him separately for the Penguin Project. You know, I will always look back with affection on the Premier Playhouse and wish them nothing but success. I mean, it's near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you're near and dear to our hearts as well, Robin.
Well,
and
thank you.
We wish you the best. And it was so an honor to have you as the first guest. You know, when I started the program, was getting things ready, I thought I was going to end up like an old radio program that I had done where there'd be all these little segments and so forth. And I interviewed you, and after that I knew, forget all the other schlock, stick to the conversations, because you find out about people's passions.
Yeah.
And I recall you wishing me well on that, and here we are on the 200th episode.
I was on your 100th as well.
Yes, you were. Yeah. And then we're also going to have my 100th guest coming up here. But overall, we have interviewed over 300 individuals on this program.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud that I was able to get you as a friend.
Yeah.
And I wish you well.
Well, thank you. I know a lot of my theatre friends tune into your podcast, and I'm sorry if I didn't get to see you on this visit, but I will be back next year for 3 or 4 months for something relating to my my business interests here. And I promise you I'll catch up with you guys then.
All right. Sounds great. And we look forward to when you're back.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Robin. We'll be back with more of the Dave Holly Hour in just a moment.
Helping women feel empowered and confident is what Posh Boutique at the Bridges at 57th does, while supplying high-quality clothing that fits your lifestyle, personality, and price point. Whether you want comfy and cozy, casual attire, or something for a special occasion, Posh provides quality, selection, and value. They carry sizes extra small to 3X and have something appropriate for any age. Feel empowered and get confident. Posh Boutique at the Bridges at 57th.
Dr. Perry Langston and Dr. Corey Tooney know excellence is in you. That's why they provide you with excellent care at XO Chiropractic, improving your overall health in spirit, body, mind, and will. Get results the natural way. Arrange a consultation, 605-332-9235 or xochiros.com. Excellent care for excellent people. XO Chiropractic, located at 4309 South Racket Drive in Sioux Falls.
He's a bit flirtatious, but most of all, fun. Once again, here's Dave Holly.
Welcome back, everybody. Here we are on our 200th episode. I guess we're doing okay, huh? Well, we're always having fun regardless, and as always, it is always a pleasure to talk Sioux Empire Arts and Entertainment. It's always a pleasure to have new guests, but it's always great to have people returning, as is our 100th guest. Miss Alisha Rayne, how are you?
I'm good, Dave. How are you?
Glad to hear that I'm doing well, thank you. Yeah, so you are our 100th guest. You ended up coming to the 100th episode party and so forth. And so it's always great to see you and always fun to talk to you. And I'm glad that we could at least get this in because you are like busy like a line comedy.
Yep. I'm pretty busy. Last week I had 2 shows. We had Dan Alton come in on Monday, September 25th. And then it was Thursday. I want to say the 28th was Preston Williams. So I had 2 big shows all in one week. So that week I was pretty busy. And then I have a lot of stuff coming up. So,
yeah. All right. So tell us, Buzzline Comedy, how did that come about then?
I actually used to run a blog, so if you kind of dig through the annals of the internet, you can find because everything's
on there forever.
Yeah, you can find the old blog. It's kind of in bits and pieces now, but I used to do like red carpet interviews with people, produce those. Things like that. And I would do like horror events and I would do comedy events. And when I was interviewing somebody, a comedian, about comedy and stuff like that, they said, well, it sounds like you know more about comedy than I do. And so I was like, well, why don't I just do comedy myself? And then when I started doing shows here in Sioux Falls, I just decided to bring back the old brand since it was already a little bit established. So, yeah,
excellent.
Buzzline Entertainment.
Yeah. And so how often are you typically having shows in? At least once a week or?
I have a show for the rest of the year at least. It's the last Thursday of the month.
Okay.
So the next one is going to be October 26th. And then after that in November 30th.
All right. And so on the 26th then, who do you have?
I have the hilarious Large Marge. Large Marge is a drag queen who does a lot of comedy around the Midwest. They're from Minnesota and they performed here in the past, and it's always hilarious. And then I have local comedians. Sarah Manson will be performing, and Derek Quinn is performing as well. That's a kind of a new comedian out there. And then from Sioux City, I don't want to get the name wrong. Let me double check before I
Drake or
no, from Sioux City, Judas Holmberg.
Okay.
From Sioux City. So this is the Buzzline Comedy Showcase Halloween Pride edition. So we have people from the LGBTQ plus community performing. So that'll be a lot of fun. We're actually gonna have a booth from Sioux Falls Pride there with their merch.
Excellent.
And yeah, so it'll be a lot of fun.
With that date, then, are you also hoping that people show up in costume?
Yeah.
As the audience members?
Yep, audience. It's definitely feel free to dress up in costume. I've got a Rainbow Bright costume ready to go, so everyone else will be dressed up as well. So it'll be a lot of fun. Maybe a costume contest.
Okay. Yeah. And where's this going to take place?
That's going to be at Lucky's Bar.
All right.
Almost all of my shows are at Lucky's Bar in the basement in Club 224, which actually used to be the old Fat Daddy's comedy club.
That's right. Forgotten about that one.
Yep. And then every Monday is our downtown open mic again in Lucky's as well. Sign-up's at 7:30 and show starts at 8. So,
what night of the week are you not at either an open mic or putting on a show?
That remains to be seen. Every Wednesday is Bosses Comedy. Every other Thursday is Club David open mic, and then there's Windy City Bites. That's the other Thursday, and just other mixed open mics around the city. So yeah, tonight, Tuesday, there's a mixed open mic at Wiley's.
Okay.
So
yeah, because I was going to say, I know Wiley's has had some of the past, but theirs is more the mixed, right? You know, you can play guitar or just read poetry or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, music, anything. Yeah. So
how has the attendance been, not just in terms of the comics, but how has attendance been in terms of audience when it's come to the open mics?
Summertime is kind of a hard time. If it's very warm out, we don't get as much, but we've started getting a little bit more appreciation from Sioux Falls in general. We've had just some people just kind of walking in off the street, seeing our sign outside of Lucky's. So definitely popularity has gone up.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure that a lot of that as well is the fact that you're pretty darn good at that social media thing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You know, because it's keeping it top of mind awareness, but it's not overkill.
Oh, yeah.
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 You know, I know some people will just boom, 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 boom. They've got to have something every hour and so forth. But yours is well timed and make sure that the people are thinking about it. And what is it about comedy that's doing so well right now then?
Well, we've got just some comedians in general that are doing really well. For instance, like Matt Rife, he'll be coming into town in February, and there's like a big boom in audience work kind of because of his social media presence and all the audience work that he does in his social media. So I think that's part of the popularity right now. And actually February 15th, the week before Matt Rife comes to Sioux Falls, I'll be doing my own all-female, non-Matt Rife show at Lucky's. So look for that.
A good play on that. Yeah, well done. Well done. What is it about comedy that makes you want to be on stage?
I love writing comedy. For me, like when I'm, brainstorming, doing things like that, and then like the punchline just kind of like, just makes so much sense that it's just such a good feeling. So my favorite part about comedy is writing, but I also, like being on stage because it's a different version of myself, maybe like a more authentic version of myself. So,
yeah. So when you got into comedy, did you think you would be at this point?
Not at all. not at all. Because I was doing comedy in California, so I was, doing open mics, running around. And I had put down comedy for a while because of moving back here, but since picking it back up, it's been great. And I think being in the Midwest gives me a different amount of stage time. Like,
True.
Yeah, when you're in like the bigger city, you're competing with a lot of people, but in the Midwest, you're able to get a little bit more actual show time rather than just open mic time. Yeah,
that's great. And I know that you have like a film background as well, and that you've done a lot. And how does all of that work into your writing and then eventually what's going to be on stage?
I have a degree in film studies from the University of Minnesota, and so I just have a writing background in general because that's part of my degree was watching movies and writing papers about them. So very illustrious, BA and BS, as I like to call it. So, just having a good base of just writing in general and English comp and things like that, is part of my comedy. I think I have subtler punchlines and grenade jokes, where you say the punchline and it takes the audience a second to get it. So I think just having that background
and you're fine with that.
Has shaped my humor for sure.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say, because, some people will be like, I know what is the rule that you want to be getting a laugh like every 9 seconds or something.
Yeah.
And they if they don't feel things immediately, they're like, oh my. And then they start to do the self-deprecation stuff and so forth. And it's like, no, dude, you were funny. It just, maybe people didn't need to gut laugh at that time or something. Give yourself credit for what you did do. Where was it in your career then, being a comic, that you kind of said, you know what, I've been through the heckles, I've done the bombing, and I feel comfortable, and this is what makes me who I am?
Great question. I love it. As I stall for time. Well, I also love sketch writing, with my film history, and then also with being on public access. I was at public access for a little bit. There's a lot of, sketch writing and filming sketches and things like that. So, that's what I enjoy doing. I think that as a comedian and as a writer, I'm always evolving. Like, I'm not settled and saying I'm done. It's always a process. I'm always learning. I'm going to be taking some sketch writing classes and things like that. I'm never satisfied with the result. So.
In fact, how often are you putting in new material?
I try to do little 10-minute bursts, at least 3 times a week.
Wow.
So I want to get to writing every day, but I do try to set a little bit of time aside, at least 3 times a week to focus on writing, things like that. And then I also am working on doing jokes about the news. I have some videos on my TikTok that are Buzzline news.
Right.
So doing jokes specifically about the headlines, things like that. So that's also what I'm writing jokes about.
Where are you hoping that your comedy and your producing of comedy shows goes?
I've made a couple of live showcases that can be seen on YouTube, and then the one in February is going to be another live show that will be also recorded. And so I'm hoping to do these as pilots to do as a parody show. So hopefully late night, morning talk show, Stephen Colbert, if you're out there.
You were instrumental during COVID in keeping comedy available as you started to put together just some workshops and so forth. And how successful was that for you, and how beneficial was it to you as well?
I appreciate that statement, Dave. Instrumental. I wasn't. I was part of a bigger group of people. I was part of Zoom Comedy, which was comedians from literally all over the world keeping their own comedy scene going online. And, there was just so many open mics and so many comedians wanting to practice their material. So we just kept comedy alive online. And, for me, that was kind of the base of starting to produce comedy shows, because I did the same thing there. I would produce comedy shows specifically for a Zoom audience, and I would get... It was called the Wish You Were Here Comedy Showcase. And so I would get people from very specific areas of the country all on one show and, bring it as a little snapshot of that area and their comedy style to the rest of the world. So, yeah, I think Zoom was very important part of my life and an important part of a lot of comedians' lives during that, because there wasn't a social outlet at all, and this was an outlet for us in a lot of ways. So,
well, locally you were very instrumental in it. Then I'll put it that way.
Okay,
fair enough. When you talk about doing open mics, how do you approach that? Are you one of those that goes in there and I'm just going to try new material each time and see how it goes, or are you going to rework something? Or what's your way of approaching an open mic?
I consider it to be practice. Makes perfect. And so, I think some people have that mentality, like, oh, I need new material. And it's just like, I need to have a fantastic set for my show that's coming up, the show that people pay money at. So, yeah, I'll get out new material, but for me, it's just practicing and perfecting jokes that I already have written. So,
if you put everything together, how long of a show would you have on your own?
I have at least 45 minutes. I've headlined a couple of times, but right now I'm really working on featuring so I can perfect my headline. So doing a 20-minute set this time, and then the next time doing a completely different 20-minute set, so I can have a full hour ready to go. So I'll do it. My next headline gig is going to be January 6th in Aberdeen at Hub City.
Okay.
So
where are you playing the most?
At Lucky's.
Because of the open mics, and then at least once a month. Okay. Yeah, but beyond that, then where do you like going?
I go to Omaha a lot.
Yeah.
There's a big comedy backline, and then the Blackstone Theater is out there, and there's the Dubliner. That's another place I performed before.
Love the Dubliner. Yeah.
So it's a great scene out there, and I get a lot of stage time, so I'll go there quite often. Sioux City is another great town. A Siouxland Comedy, they put me up. So right now that's where I'm at, but I'm hoping to expand.
Yeah, I was going to say, with expansion though, what would be the next step? What type of city would you be looking at then?
I think a lot of people go south. I think I'm more looking to go north. Like Fargo has a little bit of a scene, and Bismarck I think has a little bit of a scene. So that and Minnesota area, just trying to just expand in general.
Yeah. What was it that first got you interested in being a comic?
Well, like I said, that that moment where somebody said to me, well, it sounds like you know more about comedy than I do. But growing up, my grandparents, I lived with them for a little while. They had HBO, and so
saw some of the specials then.
All of them. Yep, I saw all of those one night stands when I wasn't supposed to be watching those. Every comic relief I watched when I was a kid.
Right.
A&E, VH1 Stand Up Spotlight. So yeah, I watched all of those guys come up. Like I watched Bill Maher when he had hair. So yeah, I've just been always a fan. I've always watched it. SNL, The State, The Kids in the Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who did you admire out of the comics that were doing stand-up?
Honestly, early Ellen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, before her talk show,
Right.
I always thought she was so funny.
She was so clever.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Dana Gould. He was so funny. He wrote for the Ben Stiller show. There were some really great sketches on that. And then his stand-up was hilarious. And I still I follow his podcast and stuff like that. And then, as I got a little older, Maria Bamford has definitely been like a huge influence on my comedy as an adult. So
yeah. Are younger comics coming up to you now and saying, can you give me some pointers and so forth? Or are they seeking advice?
Yeah. Yep. They, we've got some new people that are in the scene, and they, are definitely very excited to be there. And so I just give them encouragement and give them advice and just encourage them to come back. We've got some people who are not quite able to come to the bar, but I'm like, just go to the ones that, that
wherever
are,
you can.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we'll get you into Lucky's when you turn of age. So yeah,
it has to be tough right now for somebody that's, out of high school, in college, but not of 21. And it's like, where can I go and do this then? Yeah.
Yeah.
But, otherwise, so thankful that you are keeping things going quite well here in Sioux Falls with Buzzline and the open mics that you go to and the shows that you're producing. And wish you, of course, the best of luck all the way the rest of the line in your career on that. But I always like to finish with a couple of standard questions. When you are not part of the arts and entertainment scene, what do you like to be entertained by?
I'm a big horror movie fan. I've made a couple of horror shorts, and so there's a movie coming out where it's kind of like Back to the Future, where she goes back to the 80s to solve an old slasher crime. I think it's coming out on Amazon Prime. I'm not sure, with Sabrina. So yeah, I'm a big horror fan, and it's either horror or comedy. There's no in between really. So yeah,
so docudrama's out, huh?
Yeah. And I'm not a big true crime fan. I would prefer it to be fictional. So
all right, and then of course the last one then is any other hobbies?
I have plants. There
Plants?
You go.
That's a hobby. All
yeah.
right. Fantastic. Alisha, Rayne, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time and being on the show.
Thank you so much, Dave. Appreciate it.
Are you an artist? Need some funding to further your art? There's a great opportunity for you through a Sioux Falls Arts Council program. The Artist Microgrant program gives away several microgrants to local artists, no matter what art discipline you're in. Unlike more traditional grants, a microgrant is very easy to apply for. Go to artssiouxfalls.org. If you haven't done so yet, create a listing on the Artist Directory, which is beneficial in its own way. Then go to the Artist Microgrants page and apply online. The process is simple. Find out more about the Sioux Falls Arts Council as well online at artssiouxfalls.org.
Check out the new ceramic studio in Sioux Falls, conveniently located off Kiwanis Avenue on 5th Street. TJS Ceramics, inside Oscar's Mini Storage. Bisque, studio time, painting parties, and finished items are available. Visit TJS Ceramic Studio in Sioux Falls today.
It's the podcast that creatives in the Sioux Empire listen to so they can learn more about other creatives. It's the the Dave Holly Hour.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the 200th episode of the Dave Holly Hour.
Woohoo!
Woo! I am Axel Osteen. You may formerly know me as Sonia Osteen. I've had a rebranding of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
So Dave is going to be on the opposite side of this interview today.
How about that? You get to ask questions of me.
Yeah. Yeah. So how does 200 episodes feel?
Fan-frickin-tastic.
Did you think you were going to be here still?
I had no clue.
Yeah.
We joke. My wife thought it was going to be 3. All I know is that when it was episode number 1, I said, I hope to make it a weekly thing, but I'm not going to make any promises because the previous decade, I had a lot of different things happen in terms of what can take place in life. And it's just, here's what I want to do. I don't know. But then I made a second one, and then all of a sudden I'm into a month, and it kept going, and I kept meeting new people that I wanted to have on the show. It's like I got to get to them, too. And in fact, right now, I have a list of 26 people that I've just run into in the past couple of weeks.
Oh, wow.
That haven't been on, that I've said, we got to get you on at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's plenty of shows to come, I have the feeling.
Yeah. So what was the genesis of this podcast?
Well, I had been at Kello AM Radio 2000 to 2005. Then a new company came in and got rid of 7 of us the first day. So just kind of did some part-time stuff, a little freelance work for a few years. Then an opportunity came up at the other radio stations, and it didn't take long to get let go by that because that's when the recession was coming through, and I was the last on, so first off, and I think they got rid of close to 30 people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was tough. So then I actually got a job. That I still have to this date.
An actual job.
An actual job with benefits and so forth.
Nice.
And I've been at Citibank now for 11 and a half years.
Okay.
But just started going part-time.
Oh.
Because I'm preparing myself for retirement. And what I want to do in retirement is do lots of podcasting, lots of voice work, audio production, and so forth. So taking the time to get acclimated to have that then.
That's amazing.
But I had wanted to do, a show similar to what I had done at Kello AM. So I had all these different segments I had planned.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that I knew when I started it was I just want to talk to people about their passion.
Mm-hmm.
And the first interview that I had was Byrne. And he is back on this episode. And Robin is just one of those class guys, and he had wished me well at that time. And I thought, well, that's, nice. And
yeah,
we had a great conversation, went over half an hour. And so I was like, I don't need all these different little segments. Stick to what you really enjoy. So I try to have a couple of guests on each week.
So what inspired the arts and entertainment side of it?
I guess that was kind of interesting because, I grew up in a small town, Rock Rapids, not too far from here. And in a small town, in school, you do everything. You're in sports, you're in band, you're in chorus, all of that. And, the one thing that I've held on to ever since I graduated in 1981 is my Louis Armstrong Jazz Award.
Oh.
All the athletic stuff, the Letterman's jacket, all that, long, long gone. But I have that. That's the thing I'm the most proud of. And I just keep thinking of my love of jazz and how jazz is such an American music form. And I like the art of it. I like the improv, and kind of equate that to an abstract painting.
Sure.
And so I thought, let's just run with that. Because when I was at Kello, I loved those interviews the most. And so it's just always, you get such great feeling out of talking to people in the arts and entertainment and great stories.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So sad news.
Yes.
So most of you know, I started Sodak Music Magazine, and that is how I kind of ran into Dave. And And then we found out we live like 3 blocks from each other. And yeah, so, you know, sometimes art stuff, you try it and it doesn't work out. And that's kind of what happened with the magazine because, you know, got to eat. And, you know, it was very well received and everything. But like, you know, if you can't make money, then sometimes you just kind of gotta.
Regrettably. But, you know, I always think of things and keep them in the back of my mind. And like, you know, maybe there's going to be a return of that. Or, you know, maybe something's going to flourish from it later.
Yeah. And it's not even, I don't know. I feel like if I wouldn't have tried, I would always wonder. Right. One of those things. So I'm glad that I did it. But anyway, Dave and I have had many conversations about music and all of that.
Well, definitely. And my favorite thing about you is your photography, which you're sticking with.
Yes, I am sticking with the photography.
Excellent, because you still, and we have a lot of good photographers in this town, but when it comes to capturing somebody on stage, nobody takes a better picture than you.
Oh, that's so kind.
Yeah, and it goes back to my own love of photography because when I was in high school, I thought I was going to be a photographer before somebody said, "Hey, you got a nice voice. You ever thought about doing radio?" And there was a book about freelance photography, and I will never forget a black and white picture of a guitarist on stage and the lights behind him, the stage lights. And it's like, it's black and white, but I know those colors. And I've always been fascinated by that. And, and when I see your work, that's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, and I do like putting mine in black and white. I feel like there's just something about it that, I don't know, it just, even though there's no color in it, I just feel like they're better somehow. I don't know.
I've always loved it. I took a picture one time of the nativity scene that my folks always had for years, and I made that into an 8x10 black and white. And it was gorgeous.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, and a little star filter, so the light that was behind it. Yeah, really, really thought that was cool. But
are you still doing photography?
I'm getting back into it.
Oh, good.
Yes, including a camera I bought from you not too long ago.
Oh, yeah, my garage sale.
Yeah. And still ISO in search of the Pentax K1000.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because that was the first camera I purchased with my own money.
So you're gonna do film.
Yeah, I'm still going to do it. I realize it's expensive, but, you know, so podcasting.
True. Yeah. True. So did you come out of the womb with this voice of yours?
Pretty much. It's you know, one of those funny things that people always ask, you know, where did you get that great voice?
Right.
And so I joke with them and say, well, I got it at Walmart. It was on the top shelf. They had a rollback one day for 1988. Really? No. God-given or something.
Right.
You know, it's just DNA.
Yeah. Came out of the womb singing, talking. You knew you were going to be
Not so
on
much
radio.
singing because my older siblings already had that mastered.
Sure.
So I went with I'll be the speaker then.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So tell me about all of your projects around town. You have so many projects.
Wow, do I ever.
Yeah.
So besides this, I also happen to be the host of Midtown Coffee Radio Hour, which is a fantastic podcast and a great experience because every one of those we record live in front of an audience. And
They're super fun.
Super fun. We have such a great time with it. And I have the best seat in the house. I sit there over on the stage right toward the front a little bit, and so I get a great view of each person in that band. And I always think of my friend Mike Hendrickson, who is always said, live music is good for the soul. And what I have found is they will play a tune that, I've heard on the radio before. It didn't make me go, ooh, what a great song. And then I hear it done live and it's like, that's an awesome song.
Right.
And I love how that works. And then also, because I get to see them and I take a look at them and the joy that is in their faces as they're playing or singing, is fantastic. And the last one that I always look back at is Tyson Kahn, the drummer. And he gives me this little nod, like, isn't this cool?
That's so awesome. And then you do your trivia at Chasers.
Yeah, trivia at Chasers on Monday night. That goes over quite well. We change things up, different themes. In fact, coming up next week, it's not going to be a theme. It'll be general, but we're going to play Cheaters Trivia again.
Oh.
All the rules that we normally say about you can't use your phone, you can't talk to any other team, all of that, throw them out the window. But the caveat is the fact that it is timed, and there's no repeats of, well, did you miss a question earlier?
Sure.
Nothing like that. And then we'll still throw a couple of things in there at the end that they better be ready for.
Okay.
And then let's see. What else? Oh, Late Night Boomin'.
Late Night Boomin'.
Late Night Boomin' is one of my favorite things to do. I get to play a character named Mr. Potter.
Oh, okay.
And he's a crotchety old man that's still living back in the 30s and in a wheelchair. And he is the supposed producer of the show.
Okay.
And he's always complaining about the host and all the guests using up all the budget of $10.
When is that coming back?
That'll come back after the first of the year.
Okay.
Yeah, so in 2024, we'll have that.
Okay.
And wish me luck next week. I happen to be auditioning for premieres at the Premiere Playhouse.
Nice.
I did last year, but it was just a small part, and I actually got to read my script because I was a 1940s, hard to believe, radio announcer. And so
you were born to play the role.
Yeah, but I was asked to read for another one that was in the finals, and sure enough, the one that I was in got chosen.
Nice.
And so it was like, wow, do I want to do this?
Mm.
And I got to looking at the part once again and reading it over, thinking, this is one I can handle. I normally don't like to because I'm so afraid. I don't have stage fright by any means. I'm just afraid of forgetting my lines all the time because I'm 60. And that happens in life.
Right.
But it's like, here's another part of that equation of, going to part-time is that now I will have time to study things like that.
Yeah.
And, just have a blast and enjoy life. Like you said, the magazine maybe didn't work out, but you would have wondered afterward.
Yep.
What if I hadn't done that? So that's going to be mine. What if I hadn't tried out for that?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. Let's see. What else is going on? Oh, we happen to have a variety show called The Vaudies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and we finally got the date set for the fall.
Okay.
November 16th. It's a Thursday. Venue is still TBD.
Okay.
But it'll be at 7:30 on that night, and variety of entertainment. We have fun, we get frivolous, and we're going to introduce a new act to it.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Mirth and Merry Mint.
Oh, my.
Couple of characters that came out of a misspelling of mine of the word mirth.
Oh.
So we're going to have a little play with that.
Sure.
Yeah. And let's see, I do some voiceover work. You'll occasionally see me on a commercial sometime. But,
sure.
But just trying to do something all the time. In fact, now co-authoring a book as well.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
What is it about?
It's about a rom-com about two writers on a rom-com series.
Oh. Who are you doing that with?
A wonderful lady by the name of Emerson Park.
Okay.
She's got 3 books out and working on her 4th.
Okay.
And we're going to be co-authoring. And now that I've got this time again, that's one of the other things I got to work on.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Oh,
so very
fun.
excited about that.
When is that supposed to be done?
Oh, that'll be a
Drafted?
while yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because first of all, she's got her 4th book she's writing.
Okay.
And it's going to take me a little bit to get caught up here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever written a book before?
I have not.
Oh.
Written some short stories.
It's exciting.
And just written things in general,
sure.
essays. But so this new adventure again.
Cool. So semi-retirement, you said you're going to do more podcasting. Are you going to do more of this show, or are you going to do other shows?
Be producing others.
Oh.
That's the goal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got a couple in mind already.
Okay.
And then also some people that want to be able to rent my space for either recording their own or recording some voice work that they want to pass along.
Okay. All right. So what does a podcast producer do? Explain it to me. I don't
podcast producer is the person that will take all of that interview stuff or whatever form they have and will make sure that it sounds great. So audio engineer is part of it, but also be the one responsible for knowing what is the type of background music should be here. Do we need any special effects thrown in?
Okay.
Do we need to have some different voice the intro and the outro? Are you taking breaks for commercials or just a straight through?
Sure.
What's going to benefit you by having a 15-minute, a 30-minute, or an hour type show?
Okay.
And also, just making sure that all the equipment works at the right time and putting it all together. And then, of course, once that's all edited, it's all finished, then you got to post it and make sure it gets out there somewhere.
So you were in radio for a long time.
Yeah.
How do radio and podcasting, are they different, same?
They are different.
Okay.
You go into podcasting, if you've been in radio thinking, I'm just going to do this radio show again.
Right.
Doesn't work that way.
Okay.
Yeah. You'll find your niche very quickly, and you're not going to have, despite the fact that, every company that wishes for you to podcast with them will say, if you get 1,000 downloads per episode on Apple, then you'll get some money. I'm not counting on anything from that.
Right,
in fact, the local sponsors I have, I treat them very well. I make $24 a week on my podcast.
Okay.
Which is enough to place it on a site and also to have its own website.
Nice.
But what it has done for me is it's grown my audio production business. Santa Claus had a really great year the past 2 years, and all the other little bit pieces that I get here and there to work with other people. So that's where the podcast has paid off for me. But when it comes to actually putting it together, a lot of radio stations say, or you can listen to our podcast, which is basically a repeat or just, some highlight out of it.
Sure.
And that's all well and fine, but, there are over 300,000 podcasts in the United States. So unless you're the Joe Rogans or the big genre of true crime, that's the one that sells.
You should do a true crime one. Your voice. I feel like you would be good at that.
Well, I did the intro and the outro for Mo Hurley's Fear Falls, which is a fictional one that she writes about the things, back like 40s and so forth, and had a blast with that. But it's, you find it, you accept what you get. The first episode I did, it comes out right after midnight, and I was still up, and so I was like, oh wow, there's the download. Woke up in the morning, 26, wow, I'm just going crazy about it all. And then the second episode included Bob Wendland from Goodnight Theater, and when he shared it, he hashtagged every single person that he had mentioned in his interview, and had 76 in the first hour.
Oh, my goodness.
Because it just went crazy with everybody. And what's really interesting, because I've had 300 plus individual guests, a total of about 550 total interviews, but over 300 individual guests. And then when they share it with their family and friends on Instagram, Facebook, etc., each week, episode number 1 gets another download.
Oh, probably because, they want to see where it all began. Yeah.
And it's like, okay. And then what's nice is about the website that I have it on currently, they have a search bar for it. So you can search. You want to search Goodnight Theater, and it'll tell you what times different people from that were on there. You want to search one actor or director.
Oh, sure.
And then it'll say which episodes they were in.
Okay.
And so that's very handy. I like that feature of it now.
Nice.
And that particular website is just so much easier because they take it off of the feed from Podbean, which is where I upload it to. And so the intro that I wrote there just correlates over to that. they make it look good on their formatting of it, and that saves about 45 minutes the next morning.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Tell me about Santa Claus. When do you start being Santa Claus again?
Oh, anytime. Yeah. I've already got one booking, and I will probably wait until after we get back from our vacation.
Okay, where are you going?
Going to Nashville.
Oh.
Yeah, my sister lives in a suburb called Mount Juliet.
Okay.
And so we're going to go down and visit her family, and my wife has never been east of the Mississippi, so we're driving.
My goodness.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
And taking a full week, so
Sure.
it'll be Tuesday to a Tuesday. And we'll have a great time going to all sorts of places. And yes, as many people know, I do like Jack Daniels. And we are taking a side trip one day to Lynchburg. Oh, I'm sure that we'll come back with several different things. But after that, then we'll start, putting out the publicity for it, that I will be raring and ready to go.
Yeah.
And Santa Claus is the thing that I like. I'm for hire for, just sitting there for pictures and so forth. But the one that I really love, and Susan McGowan from town here is the first one that when I first really started to do Santa, she saw me. And she hired me then to come out to their house and to Santa Claus for all of her grandchildren.
Oh, wow.
And it was so neat because she wrote up a paragraph about each one of them.
Oh.
And I kept it year to year so I could go in and say, oh my goodness, 2 years ago, you wanted to be an astronaut. Last year, a cowboy, and now you want to be a pirate.
Oh.
And just all the little things that do
cool.
to sell it is so much better. And so I did that family for 14 years. I did another family for 15 years. And now I've got some others that, we're starting a tradition with as well.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's just, that's the thing that I sell my Santa service on, is the fact that I'm not just going to go in and take a look at the name tag and hand it out. I'm going to talk about them.
Sure.
And talk about things that, nobody else should really know.
That's so cool. So next week marks 4 years officially of this podcast.
Yes. Yeah, the 10th.
Where do you see yourself in another 4 years?
Hopefully still doing it.
Hopefully still doing it.
I know.
Are there enough people in Sioux Falls?
All right. Boy, are there. Yeah, I've got, I have enough just on the list of people that I talked to the past couple of weeks, like I told you, to fill 13 weeks.
Wow.
And there's more beyond that.
Wow.
And in that time, I'm going to see new acts. I'm going to see new people on stage or new people playing music or new art. And it'll be like, oof, got to add them to the list too.
So did you meet people at SuperCon over the weekend? You had a booth there, right?
I did have a booth, and it wasn't a huge sale for me in terms of merchandise. Didn't expect it to be.
Sure.
Because, people go to SuperCon, they're not looking to pick up one of my hats or a bag.
Sure.
But they do stop and get very curious. And so over the weekend, last week's show bumped up quite a bit.
Okay.
And then as well, I was near all the authors.
Oh,
and one of them asked me to send my voiceover demo to him.
Oh.
Because he may be thinking about using me to narrate one of his books.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, that it is.
Do people still do, so this is just a random question, do you know if people still do like book trailers?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yep. I've done one in the past.
Okay.
Yeah. A good friend of mine that wrote a baseball book about no-hitters here in town, Dirk, and it was fun to do. And then I happened to be at the hospital like a month or two after it came out, and so Dirk brings me it and autographed it. And he's a Mets fan, and I'm a Cubs fan, and he says, I'll even root for the Cubs as long as they're not playing the Mets. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I did my first book that came out like 10 years ago. I did a book trailer for it. and it was before people were really doing it. And yeah, I think it had like something like 10,000 views or something, which
awesome.
Was crazy. Yeah, I just didn't know if people were still doing that. I haven't been paying attention.
You don't see it a lot because there's so much focus on the actual Audible.
Yeah.
And so forth.
Yeah, Audible wasn't huge back then. So.
Oh my goodness, and they're the ones that now set the standard on what your levels and so forth have to be when you record.
Don't they have like actual like famous actors like acting out books and stuff now? Yeah. That's crazy. You should do that. You should be an actor in a book.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because when I was in third grade, I think that was the first imitation I did of a celebrity. I did W.C. Fields. Oh, yes, I went to Philadelphia once, but it was closed. And then the next one, the president at the time, I am not a crook. Richard Milhouse Nixon.
Yeah.
And it just kept going from there. But now I'm thinking of just trying to do more voices instead, because most of the people that I do impressions of, I don't like to say imitations. I say impressions because I'm not perfect. And anybody that says they are perfect, they're barking up the wrong tree. But so I do impressions, but most of those people have now left this earth.
Okay.
Somebody says, I'm going to do impressions only of dead people. And I said, that's because there are no John Waynes or Jimmy Stewarts anymore.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do remember them. I'm not that young. I do remember that. So how do you I've one of my gigs, I don't know if you know this, I do school portraits.
Yes.
And so I get to just make a fool of myself in front of little kids all day, which is great. But I have a question about how do you keep your voice like nice and crisp, because my voice is naturally this timbre.
Right. Yeah.
But when I'm talking to little kids, I go up like an octave.
Oh, yeah.
And so my throat is like sore a lot more. Yeah, because I'm yelling stinky feet at kids, and whatnot. And I'm just wondering, like, what do you do to keep your voice like,
well, I drink,
that's your money
drink a
maker.
lot of Diet Coke, but I have a lot of ice in it.
Okay.
And so the ice helps soothe.
Okay.
Also, I use the Hall's, not their cough drops, but the vitamin C drops.
Oh,
and,
okay.
I almost every time that I'm in the kitchen, I pick up another one and suck on that. And then I also have a bottle of a spray that keeps everything loose. Also, just keeps you away from having dry mouth and things like that.
Okay, it's probably similar to like a singer.
Yeah.
Okay. You ever drink milk? I know, like I've known singers that like drink milk before.
No,
really?
That's a really tough thing to do.
Yeah, I feel like you'd get more phlegmy.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. I don't know.
So if you do drink milk before a performance, you better drink a bunch of water after
right?
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they did it after performing. Maybe that was, I don't know. Anyway. I don't know what else to ask you.
Well, you've asked quite a bit.
I know.
28 minutes worth.
Really?
Yeah. Okay, you got to ask me the two questions I always ask at the end. About when you're not part of the arts and entertainment, what do you like to be entertained by, etc.
Okay. What do you do? What are your hobbies when you're not in the arts and entertainment doing your thing?
I am usually just puttering.
Puttering?
Yeah, I do like to read. Haven't had a bunch of time for it lately, but obviously we just love going out and taking in everything.
Oh yeah, I always see pictures of you and your wife out.
Yeah, we are constantly at either live music or we're taking in somebody's art exhibit. We're sitting down there at any one of the breweries that my wife loves and hoping that there's some live music. And
what's your favorite brewery in town?
Hers would happen to be Woodgrain.
Woodgrain, okay.
Yes,
okay.
Because a dear friend of mine is one of the owners there. And so that's how I ended up starting her there.
Okay.
But because of my diabetes, I can't drink beer.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I can drink 6 Jack Daniels and Diet Cokes with lime all night long.
Is that your favorite drink?
That's it. And the next morning, my blood sugar will only be 106. I drink one beer and the next morning it's 256.
Oh, sure. That's weird.
So I don't get to,
maybe? Yeah.
and I just don't get to, but I still go there and have, some other stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, to benefit local people, because that's one thing I'd love is local. I so want people to succeed. And somewhere along the line, about 20 years ago, we became kind of this angry, profit's a dirty word. Nobody should make any money. So I'm going to go in there and I'm going to knock them down and make sure I get this for their cost. Oh, that store closed 6 months later. What happened?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I want people to succeed. I want to do whatever I can to help them succeed. And in turn, I hope that they wish the same for me. And in fact, I started writing down in one of my journals, I have a list of what I call believers. Not people that say, hey, good for you and so forth, but that truly understand what I'm hoping to do, and that they support me in that, and they believe that I can do it.
Yeah, not people saying, when are you going to get a real job?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, because we all go through that.
That we do. Yeah. Well, I love this. That just I saw that on a meme a while back, and you can read that to the audience if you'd like.
So Dave's got this thing. It says the creative process. Number 1, this is awesome. Number 2, this is tricky. Number 3, this sucks. Number 4, I suck. Number 5, this might be okay. Number 6, this is awesome. That's very true.
Yeah,
That's so true.
The self-doubt that any creative goes through.
Yeah.
Whew, it's brutal.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I say I suck a lot.
Yeah, I've used more colorful language about myself. Yeah.
Well, yes. Me too.
Yeah.
But that's calmer.
No, but just getting out and about. I'm a huge Chicago Cubs baseball fan.
Okay.
And
why?
Interesting story. My father grew up down in Des Moines, and he subscribed to the Des Moines Register, even though we were living, 250 miles away in Iowa. But he always had that, and the Sioux City Journal. But Iowa had a AAA baseball team, and they were owned by Oakland, the Oakland A's.
Oh.
They were called the Iowa Oaks.
Okay.
And then the Cubs purchased them and became the Iowa Cubs. And when they did that, the Sunday Des Moines Register, the sports section was always called the Peach. It was a different color of print that they used.
Okay.
And so here in the Peach was this huge article, several articles actually, about the Cubs. And the Cubs now being in Iowa, and, they're the AAA, so you might be able to see some of these guys move up. And Chicago is a lot closer to get to than Oakland was. And it also had the story about them being lovable losers, and that fans were diehard fans. It's like, okay, this is cool. So I started to pay attention. But in the meantime, at those ages, it was like, I kind of like the Royals. I kind of like so-and-so, and all these different things. And then the very first thing that I got to vote on at the age of 18 in Rock Rapids was a municipal election about should we have cable TV in town.
Oh, my.
And it got voted in. And one of the stations that you could watch was WGN out of Chicago.
I had WGN in Wisconsin.
And they covered the Cubs. And when I was in college, and I'd be back home for the back for the summer, they played all their home games back then in the afternoon. And I had a part-time job in the evening.
Oh.
So I would watch, hey, Harry Carey.
Oh, sure.
The Chicago Cubs, the friendly confines of Wrigley Field. And so I got hooked on all of it then.
You just reminded me of that Will Ferrell.
Will Ferrell. Wow, look at the kid in the sombrero.
Oh man, now I'm gonna have to go find some YouTube videos of Will Ferrell doing that. We should do Dave Holly as Will Ferrell as Harry Carey.
We can do that.
That would be hilarious. You should do that on Late Night Boomin'.
Oh, yeah, but I wonder if they'd let Mr. Potter do.
You can just pretend like you're his twin brother or something.
Yeah. I've got the glasses in my in another room. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
That could be fun. Don't take that idea, anyone.
Yeah.
So did you play baseball?
I only played up through 7th grade.
Okay.
I was a catcher in Little League and loved that. And then when I got to junior high, I realized I wasn't going to be a good baseball player. I still, if I could get around to one, I would go to a batting cage and
Yeah. Did you have a sport that was your sport?
Wrestling.
Wrestling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did okay in it.
Yeah.
You know, better than 500. Won more matches than lost.
Sure.
And had some really great memories of that. But to baseball, I just still, no matter, you know, sometimes you play a sport and maybe you don't do that well. And sometimes whoever's coaching, teaching, and so forth, you leave kind of disheartened, almost like you're being told not even to enjoy the sport.
Sure, yeah.
And but baseball, even though I didn't decide to pursue it in any way, I still love. And I just continue to be astounded by it and learn from the game too.
Yeah, baseball is cool. Like where I grew up in Wisconsin, we were closer to the Twins.
Then over to the Brewers?
Then the Brewers,
okay.
Like much closer. And it was when Kirby Puckett was there in the World Series.
Yep.
And
87 and 91.
Yep, that was a big deal. Yep.
I actually got to do the PA for a Legion baseball game after a Twins game.
What?
At the Metrodome.
Oh.
And when you hear your voice reverberate through a large building like that, it's pretty cool.
That is really cool. Did they tear the Metrodome down?
That's a really good question. Or is it just for use for conventions or something?
I don't know.
Now? I can't recall.
I don't know if they tore it down.
Their old PA announcer that they had, Kirby Puckett and so on. My favorite, because I also happen to love the song Mac the Knife, was Shane Mack.
Nice.
He'd come up to the plate and they'd play, Mac the Knife.
Yep. Yep.
The right fielder, number 24, Shane Mack.
Oh, I could just listen to your impressions all day, people.
Well, I do a decent Sean Connery as Henry Jones Sr. In that final scene. That's his name, Henry Jones Jr. We named the dog Indiana.
You've done that one for me before. So funny. Still funny.
It plays well anytime.
So, I don't know, man. You're just going to keep doing what you're doing.
I will. I'll make that promise that I will as long as I can.
Yeah. That's so exciting. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. And I'm sure
semi-retirement.
Yeah,
I'm a little
toward it.
I'm a little jealous.
Yeah. I'm jealous of those that can definitely do retirement.
Well,
right now.
Yeah.
But
and I feel like
last year's 401k took a little bit of a tumble.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, I feel like it seems like people are kind of trying to start retiring earlier.
Yeah.
Is that kind of a trend that you see?
I think so.
Yeah.
But, what they're retiring to are jobs that they love then.
Right.
And then they don't stop working.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then is it really work if you love it?
True. That old adage is a great one. If you find something you love to do, it's not work.
Yeah. We artists still need to get paid more, though.
True. And that's one thing I keep talking about on this show. And the fact that the artists in this town are great at collaborating In fact, I'll give you one of the stickers that we have.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Dave. Well, again, this is the 200th episode of Mr. Dave Holly's podcast, the Dave Holly Hour. I am Axel O. Steen. Anything else, Dave?
Now you need to say, we'll be back with more in a moment.
We'll be back with more in a moment.
Ladies, when it's time to give your nails some love, get that extra special treatment from Quality Nails on South Minnesota Avenue in Sioux Falls. Manicures and pedicures that look great and make you feel fantastic. Zaya and Tony provide professional care for your hands and feet, whether you just want the basics or an extra special look with added flair. Oh, and guys, it's okay to treat yourself too. Quality Nails. Call for an appointment. 605-334-1463.
People ask him where he got his top shelf voice. Dime store? Bargain. Once again, here's Dave Holly.
Thanks again to our guests Robin Byrne and Alisha Rayne, and guest host Axel O. Steen. As always, the biggest thanks goes to you for listening, for the downloads, for sharing, following on social media, and the cups of coffee. If you haven't so far, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. For all 200 episodes, go online at davehollyhour.com. As the Sioux Falls Arts Council says, together we art. As Arts South Dakota says, home is where the art is. As I say, put some art in your heart. Remember, my name is Dave Holly, and for me, every day is a holiday.
Dave Holly Hour has been brought to you by TJS Ceramics Studio, Posh Boutique, The Sky & Tea, XL Chiropractic, Quality Nails, Jesse Moffitt Entertainment, and the Sioux Falls Arts Council. If you would like to contribute to the continued success of this podcast, simply buy Dave a cup of coffee. Go to davehollyhour.com and click on the coffee cup icon. Don't forget to stay up to date on the show by following on Instagram and Facebook. The Dave Holly Hour is produced in the Dipsy Doodle Studios by Big D Entertainment.
Thanks for listening.